What's up, guys, and welcome back to Rules Talk and a new series called Mechanics for Dummies. And in this series, we're going to talk about the basic fundamentals of officiating, because if you know where to be and where to look, then chances are you're going to get that play right. So let's go ahead and jump right in. That movement is subtle, but let's take a look at it one more time. There are two players in particular that the center has to pay attention to. This player here and that player. There are two things that could happen in this play that are relevant to the center. One, the point guard could potentially pass it to the player on the left here. Looks like maybe she's going for a three-pointer, or maybe she passes down into the paint. And we're pretending we're in the center here. We need to get into position to be able to officiate these plays effectively before the play happens. Now, why do we want to do that? Statistically, we get the most plays right. We are at our highest play calling percentage when we are stationary. So that means we don't want to be moving and making a call because we're putting ourselves at a disadvantage that we don't necessarily have to be in. So when a play happens, we want to be not moving. We want to be stationary, and that means that we have to be in position before that play happens. So what can we do on this play to officiate both of these potential plays, be in position for both of them before they happen? Well, it's pretty simple. Like you saw in the first clip, just take a couple of steps down. Now, I know it didn't happen on this play, but we're in a great position if the point guard would have passed to this player here. If she goes up for that three, we're already in position. We don't even have to move. And like I said earlier, if she would have passed into the post, we're in a great position for that as well. We can see both plays, we can see both matchups, and we don't even have to move. The second aspect of this is that we are equally distant from players in our primary. So the matchup in the paint is engaged, but I wouldn't say it's competitive. The other matchup, the shooter, she's kind of by herself. It's not a competitive matchup either, but again, we are equally distant from both plays. We're stationary now, and if the ball goes to either player in our primary coverage area, we are ready to go. We don't even have to move. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what happens if I don't do this? I'm going to show you guys a clip at the end of this video that shows what happens if you don't get into position early. It puts you in a really bad position, and you have a high potential to miss the play. But before we get to that, let's look at another good example of an early position adjustment. As you can see, this play is very similar to the previous one we just looked at. Center has two players coming into his primary. And because you're officiating in your primary, you see these players coming. You're making the adjustments as necessary to get into position before the play happens. All it takes is a couple of steps down. To the left of the center, this player, if the point guard would have passed here, we're already ready for the shot. We don't have to move. If the pass were to go to the short corner, all we have to do is turn our head. We don't have to make any movements, which means our play calling percentage is way higher. So what happens if you don't position adjust early? Doesn't look great. The center official here does not recognize the shooter coming over. He's watching the pass, and as the ball is in flight, he still doesn't move. So what happens is he doesn't realize there's a player in his primary on the wing until the ball gets there. Ideally, you would have recognized that there's a potential play that's developing in your primary. You would have recognized that the shooter is coming over. He's getting ready to accept that pass and to potentially put up a three. And you would have put yourself in a position, like we saw in the last two clips, where you were ready to officiate that play before it happened. When the center realizes there is a play here, it is just too late. He's out of position. He can't officiate this play effectively, and if there would have been a defender right on the shooter, I mean, he would have had no idea if he got fouled. Watch the closeout as well. Luckily, we got away with this one. He did not get fouled, but take it back. Look at the position he's in. From this angle, the center has no idea. I mean, he's looking in the back of the shooter. When the defender comes out to contest that shot, the center is moving, and like I've been saying, when you're moving, your accuracy is not as good as when you're stationary. So, on this play, we got away with it, like I said, but you put yourself in a bad position, and you probably will miss plays if you don't position adjust early.